Welcome to the Animalz Podcast. I'm Ty Magnin, the CEO at Animalz.
And I'm Tim Metz, Animalz Director of Marketing and Innovation.
This season on the Animalz Podcast, we'll focus entirely on AI content use cases. We're bringing you on a search to meet the AI pioneers, those venturing beyond the hype to succeed or fail spectacularly. We're here today to kick off the season. So we'll be talking about why we want to explore this topic of AI content use cases. We're going to come clean and confess where we are with using AI in our own content creation workflows. We'll be talking about our hopes and predictions for this season. But before we get started, a word about Animalz. Did you know Animalz now offers a podcast service? We're taking over your audience's earbuds, reaching them during their commutes, their workouts, or when they're doing chores around the house. From show strategy to editing and distribution, Animalz can handle your podcast for you with that same originality and audience-first approach that we bring to all of our content. Every podcast episode can become fuel for your broader content program. You can mine your podcast for ideas for articles, social posts, and other kinds of content assets, helping you create more high-quality work in less time. Ready to start a podcast worth listening to? Head over to animalz.co, book a call with us, and we'll start talking about your podcasting goals. So, Tim, we discussed many different possibilities for what this first season Reviving the Animalz podcast might cover. We chose this one, right? AI content use cases. Why did we choose that topic out of the so many different content related topics we could have covered?
Well, I'd say the official title is AI and content. Hello, is there any value out there, right? So I think AI is obviously a hot topic. So on the one hand, you could say, it's a bit cliche. Everybody's talking about AI. But then at the same time, if you look at like what everybody's sharing on LinkedIn and newsletters and everywhere, there's a lot of the same and there's a lot of noise. It's like, you can repurpose easily and do this and that. It's like, but what is really working and what is maybe really not working? Like who are really doing cool stuff? That's actually kind of hard to figure out because there's so much noise. And so we thought, it's a topic and we are interested in the topic, obviously. So like, let's use the podcast to like really try and figure out where the really cool stuff is happening, or at least the really pioneering stuff. It could also be stuff that's not cool and it's failing, but like people are really pushing the limits on what's possible.
Yeah, and genuinely, it's taking up at least half of my work-related brain space right now.
Yeah,
I can't stop thinking about AI. Honestly, I'm looking at other people's content and I'm wondering if they're hitting AI workflows. I'm thinking about how I can use it more in my day-to-day. I do use it day-to-day, so I'm thinking about it then. It's obviously an important part of the Animalz strategic roadmap. So just kind of selfish, like I don't really want to talk about too many other things right now.
It's taking up more than half of all my brain space, not just work-related brain space, I think.
Yeah, you're with your baby and you're like singing some AI melodies to it. You're teaching it some prompts.
Not to my baby, but I'm doing AI stuff with my son. Like he is starting saying like, let's just ask Chat GPT. He knows how to, and I'm making coloring book pages with him already a long time ago. There's a lot of stuff I'm doing also in other parts of my life with AI.
I'd figured Lewis would be pretty innovative and into this kind of tech.
Yeah, he is. Well, he's liking we just tried Sora last week. That's kind of funny because I thought it was super disappointing the way it looked, and I'm like, this looks really bad, and then he's like, no, this looks super cool, like some kind of 3D polygon kind of panther or something. So he was completely into it, and then he wanted to see it on TV, and it's cool.
Why else?
I think there's a lot to learn for us and for everybody else, in the sense of like, let's put it like it's hard to keep up and there's so much going on. So, and I think it can be genuinely valuable. Obviously there are also negative sides and dangers, and we'll get to that at some point as well, of course. But I do think there's also a lot of positive stuff and a lot you can gain from it, and you can genuinely make better and more interesting content, I think, if you use it in the right way. So I think it's also helpful to show what's possible and inspire people and give people some guidance and some ideas. So I think that's also important.
Yeah, I'm really excited because I would characterize myself as a pre-revenue focused marketer. Like I want to see the results of something and then work backwards from there to like re-engineer it and deploy it myself. And so this is a good chance for us to bring in people that we know are driving some kind of revenue or some deep success metrics with AI and then get to have them kind of like show their hand for us to be inspired by, for our audience to also kind of rip off or, borrow from. And that's important to me as well. I think a lot about how content can be research. And in a way, this podcast and this season of this podcast lets us go do some research to help build better products and services for animals, right? To help deploy across our customer base and in our own marketing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Tim, you and I talk about AI a lot. We think about AI
Too
a
much.
lot. How are you using AI today in your content creation workflows?
I'm using it all the time. But probably the thing that I use it the most for is probably the most boring thing, which is like, it's really like a kind of sparring partner. So if I'm writing, I'm still writing like a human, like just doing the hard writing work. But then as I'm doing that, I will use it a lot, going like, hey, what do you think of this headline? Or I'm thinking about this headline. What do you think of this? What do you think of this paragraph? That's super basic, but I do that a lot. The other thing I've been doing with AI is I've been coding with AI, even though I can't really code. So I've been building all kinds of apps. At the end of last year, I rebuilt our Revive tool that helps people find content that they can refresh by connecting their GA4 account. And recently, I've also built an SEO forecasting tool where you give a few inputs and then it gives you a forecast of the kind of organic traffic you can expect based on your domain authority. And we've just released a post and it includes a video where I talk about that experience and walk you through exactly like how I went about building it and all the frustrations that I ran into as well, and also the joy of doing it and the lessons I've learned from that. So if you're interested in getting into doing some app building yourself with AI, then that's a great article maybe to read also on our blog, which we'll put in the show notes.
I like the sparring partner relationship that you're laying down in the peer programming analogy too, right? Developers do this kind of thing when they're writing some tricky code. I don't exactly know when, but like I know peer programming is a thing, and they'll do a screen share, right?
Pair programming, yeah, pair programming.
Are you sure?
It's not peer. I'm 100% sure. Yeah, I used to write for Parable about Agile like for 2 years, so it's like it comes from kind of from Agile. It's pair programming. Yeah.
Agree to disagree. I'm just kidding.
We could put a bet.
I'm sure you're right.
Take a bet.
I'm sure you're right. I use a lot of AI for our sales processes. So should you ever reach out to Animalz, have a sales conversation, you'll have the privilege, likely of chatting to me, maybe with Tim, for me to process those conversations, especially when there's like weeks in between, stages of a sales cycle or those conversations. I lean on AI heavily, by basically exporting transcripts from Grain into Claude to then query to help me build a deck, a presentation, to help me do some sales follow-up, that kind of thing. And I find it pretty useful there. Sometimes I don't always trust the output and I kind of have to ask it to fact check itself. I'm like, where did this idea come from? And half the time it's like, oh, that's great. I missed that, or I didn't think about that. The other half, I'm like, I don't really agree, Yeah. I use it for my own LinkedIn posts, mostly as kind of like you said, to pair program, like it can help fill in some details or do a little research into something to like corroborate an idea. Sometimes I'll spit in like some talk track or a transcript or something kind of raw and have it output a few different LinkedIn post options. I've started playing with Copy AI that has like a workflow pre-programmed to, give you 5 variations of a LinkedIn post from one input. I've also been playing with Claude's voice notes. I forget exactly what they call it.
Style,
voice
writing style or something. Yeah, style or...
Yeah, something like that in order to better format, that kind of thing. So pretty basic stuff. And then, use it for personal reasons, but that wasn't the question.
For the sales stuff, what does it give you back? Like, what is a detailed example? Does it write a sales proposal for you or just give you some pointers, or how deep do you go with it when you use it for sales?
It's mostly pointers. So if I'm framing up an SOW, right? Or if I'm putting together the sort of high level approach to how we might support a potential customer, I can ask it about the challenges that were discussed within someone's existing content program. I can ask it about the goals and how they're going to measure those things. And it's just saved me a little bit of time going from my personal notes or the call transcript to a deck or an SOW doc.
Nice.
It's all right. I'm excited to level all this up by learning and iterating on my own process through the course of this season and beyond. I think 2025 is going to be a huge year for implementing more AI use cases. And on that note, I've got to ask, what are your hopes and predictions in what we find and discover through this season?
On the positive side, I'm sure we're going to discover lots of cool stuff, because we have very smart people coming on as guests. So yeah, I think we're going to discover a lot of stuff. I think we're going to have a lot of fun recording it and talking to them. I mean, a little bit more on the negative side. I think we're going to run into things that we might not like, really. I mean, some of these people are going, some people might say, yeah, we don't need writers anymore, or like we can do all the content marketing work with 5% of the resources or something. So I think we're going to probably discover some painful, I wouldn't call them necessarily truths, but like opinions or observations or whatever about our profession or industry. So I think that's going to be confronting. It's not necessarily negative. It's good to be confronted and to get kind of feedback. But yeah, I think we're going to run into some of that. What about you? What do you think?
On the positive side?
Well, let's start positive.
I think we'll find some real use cases, especially in SEO. We see a lot of, especially early stage AI native SaaS companies doing what I'm calling spray and pray SEO. And I'll be interested to learn about how some of those programs are working. From what I hear anecdotally, they see some success, It might be early indicators, some traffic, some leads, but I think we'll learn more about how companies are evolving the way they do search with AI and seeing some early signs of success. I think we'll also learn that people really love GPT and Claude, and that they're starting to explore other Gen AI tools that are more of like a tops down type approach. So for example, over the last year, 2024 at Animalz, a lot of our AI usage has been what I call bottoms up. People are using Claude, people are using ChatGPT, and just kind of off in a silo on their own, creating prompts, using it as a sparring partner, getting value from it, but we're not really standardizing on how that's being done, on the best practices, and then gaining more momentum through that kind of exercise. And so I do think we'll see more and more teams standardizing on certain tools in order to basically create content more consistently and get that value faster. So I think we'll see a few patterns like that. On the negative side, I think some of the results are still going to be murky, right? Like I think we're still really early in this innovation. And so we might see early signs of success, but we haven't seen how these kinds of efforts play out long term.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, well, maybe I shouldn't go here, but it's kind of like the COVID vaccine. It's like, we're all excited to get it. We knew that it could help with short term, but people are like, wait, what about the long-term implications of this stuff? Like, I feel a little bit skeptical in that way right now. Not with like all AI usage, but with some of the use cases like spray and pray SEO. And so again, I think the results will be a little murky from the experts that we chat with.
I think this year we're going to, now that I hear you talking, I think this year, when I said this year, I mean like 2025, I think we're going to see how some of these things play out, and hopefully also, and actually for the season, I hope we might get an answer to some of these things. I think it's so easy to say like, oh yeah, repurposing, right? Like, oh, you can use it for repurposing, for example, or you can use it for, like, you can replace 95% of your SEO with AI, right? And it's like, yeah, okay, well, even if that's true, how will that play out, right? Like, if that's true and everybody does that, then it also means it's not a competitive advantage, right? And so, yeah, that's what I want to say. Like, I think we're going to see some of the effects that you wouldn't expect, that are counterintuitive. Like one of them, like when ChatGPT just come out, everybody suddenly think, wow, maybe my writing skills are useless, right? But actually, we might find out this year that it's going to turn out that if you're good at writing, you're actually going to be a rare person because everybody else has started to rely on ChatGPT. So it actually turns out that writing is a super big benefit. I don't know if that's going to be true, but like that's an example, right? So it's like these counterintuitive downstream effects from something that are sometimes completely the opposite of what you would predict intuitively, right? And so maybe because everybody can repurpose to do SEO, like you're just going to see this complete shift to something else, right? To a completely different content format. Because even if you can do perfect repurposing, it doesn't make sense anymore because everybody does it. So it's like I'm curious to see some of that hopefully play out in both what we learn in the show and that some people have some clear answers on these kind of second order effects and just in general see that play out in the industry and what people are doing.
Totally. I think what you're saying is you're hopeful that a second order impact, or a second wave here, is that if you are a talented writer and you learn how to use the machine, you can just get better output, better results from working with it than someone without that depth of experience can.
That is right. And that it will push certain trends or content formats or strategies that you wouldn't actually expect. Some other ones are kind of canceled out because everybody can do them easily.
So as you know, this season we're focusing entirely on AI content use cases. We're bringing you on a search with us to meet the AI pioneers, those venturing beyond the hype to succeed or fail spectacularly. Stay with us. We'll be dropping episodes every week. You can always dig in or skip around because in our mind, a podcast can be a library, not just a publication.
So starting next Tuesday, we'll be releasing 2 episodes every week, Tuesday and Thursdays. And we'll have 8 episodes for you this season and then a season closure. The first one that will come on next Tuesday is Nathan Basesh. He's the founder and CEO of AI writing tool Lex. After that, we have Kyle Coleman. He's the CMO at Copy.ai, a GTM AI marketing platform. The week after that, we have Stenuka, the CEO and founder at Daydream. And we'll also talk on the Thursday of that week with Stuart Hillhouse, who was formerly at Mutiny and now at StoryArb. The week after that, we talk to Parthi, who's the CEO and founder of Letterdrop. And we have a conversation with Ines Lee, who's the head of content at YouTuber Ali Abdal. Then in the final week, we'll be talking with Alex Halliday, who's the CEO and founder of AirOps, an AI workflow platform for content teams. And our final conversation will be with Matt Ellis, who's the brand director at MetaLab. They're the studio behind many iconic apps like Slack, Tinder, and Coinbase, but also recently many AI startups, including Midjourney, for example. So we'll talk with Matt about that and his work that he's been doing in the AI space.